y'all? Welcome back to Pics, or It Didn't Happen. I am Fats King. I am joined, as always, in orange, as always, by my brother, the Yeti. You want to say what's up, homie?
Hey, what's up? The Bengals are going to win. They're playing, and we're recording this on like a Sunday. So, hooday, and what up, y'all?
And we have a very, very fucking extra special guest for this episode, an underground icon, if you will. We have none other than the head of Mobstyle himself, Bukshot. You want to say what's up, big homie?
What up? What up? What up, everybody?
Before we actually get to talking about this, I have to tell you my first experience with your music. It was a Twisted show at Bogart's, and I'm torn between whether it was Abominations tour or Heartbroken and Homicidal. I can't remember which one it was. But it was the first time I had ever heard you, and it was actually the first time I'd ever heard the song Juggernaut, and I have been a fan ever fucking since, and I just wanted to say that before we actually started talking in the interview.
Dope, man. I appreciate that.
So, how long have you really been at this? Like, everybody wants to throw out stats and like how long they've been in the game, but like, when you start talking to names like you, it really matters how long you've been at this, because you've watched not just horrorcore change, but hip hop in general has become a different animal from when you got started, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've been doing this for 26 years.
God damn.
Well, everything's changed in that amount of time.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen, I've been like a hip hop fan basically since, like day one. Like I'd say the group that made me fall in love with hip hop was Public Enemy. And
that's a good choice.
I went from Public Enemy, and I was a hardcore Public Enemy fan, and then the first time I heard Ice Cube, I felt it. Ice Cube still to this day he's my favorite rapper of all time. But when I heard Ice Cube, that just changed everything, my perspective, in music, period. But yeah, I've just been a huge hip hop head ever since.
So, with everything changing and being in for so long, what do you think is going to be the biggest change that you see coming, when you're, we'll say 15 years, 20 years from now? What do you sort of see is coming up in for the new wave?
I mean, obviously, I've seen, I'd say on an industry scale right now, the type of stuff that I'm listening to and that I'm into is not as prevalent as it used to be. Like I don't really listen to too much mainstream stuff. I'm pretty much underground to the blood marrow, and I still listen to just mainly underground stuff. I've got a certain respect for some of the newer stuff out, because I know where it came from, but I'm just not, I can respect it, but I don't really necessarily like listen to it. I kind of hear everything, but I'll hear something once, but I'm just not really a fan of a lot of the newer stuff that comes out. I mean, I mainly just really listen to underground stuff.
It's kind of the big same over here as well. You said that Public Enemy is what got you into hip hop, and Ice Cube, and that's Ice Cube is one of the larger influences of a lot of rappers. He's the one that taught everybody just to carry that fuck you with you everywhere you go, and to be involved in this industry, it takes a lot of that. And but before we get to who that is, before we get to who you become to that, what was your first steps into writing rhymes, becoming who you were? Was Buckshot the first name you performed under?
Oh yeah, I've always been Buckshot. I've never went by anything else. And like I said, starting out, I was listening to just really a lot of Public Enemy, a lot of Chuck D, Ice Cube, NWA, Eazy-E, MC Ren, Cypress Hill. When Cypress Hill first came around, I was like kind of Cypress Hill evolved into being my favorite group for like the next 4 years. You know, I'm a huge Cypress Hill head. And just basically when I first started out, you know, my music went through a lot of changes because, you know, naturally assimilation, you know, you're kind of like doing what you're listening to. And the very first stuff that I was doing was very, you know, very influenced by what I was listening to and hearing. And as time went by, I started developing my own sound and, you know, kind of honing it in what would end up being the rollout, you know, of where I am today. But obviously my music's went through a lot of changes, you know, since the beginning.
So with that being said, what was the first time you heard what we call horrorcore? Who was the group that put you on to the darker sound of hip hop?
Pretty easy answer. It was actually Esham. I had a homie from Saginaw, Michigan that moved down here. This is, you know, back in the early 90s, and still one of my best friends to this day. But he was from Saginaw, and he turned me on to Esham. And you know, from hearing Esham first, you know, I had an instant love for the wicked hip hop scene. I went from Esham, you know, I remember having like a subscription to Murder Dog magazine, and
that's real old, bro.
All I cared about was just like the hardcore wicked shit. And obviously, you know, Esham, going down that tunnel, you know, I was listening to Bedlam and Flatliners and Grave Diggers. You know, I heard, I bought Insane Clown Posse, the Ringmaster. You know, when it was on the shelf, I didn't even know what a Juggalo was. I didn't even realize like I was a Juggalo until, you know, I felt like I was kind of like a old school organic Juggalo when I didn't even know what a Juggalo was. And
I mean, I feel like that's like all of us. We all didn't know it until we heard it, and it was just a smack in the face like afterward, like, oh, I check every one of those boxes. I never fit in a box, but for some reason this feels right.
Oh, for sure. I mean, from then on, it was like my whole music taste started to change. I was just really totally into like hardcore, wicked shit, horrorcore. I was, you know, I mean, obviously beside the music, I'm a huge horror movie fan. So obviously, you know, being into horror movies in general, that played a huge part into a lot of my music taste as well.
Absolutely. That's something that always just seems to go hand in hand with the people that are involved in this scene. We have a love for the darker, more macabre. Doesn't even have to be slasher, although we do love slashers, but just horror is it's such a great thing to pull from because you get so many extra subjects that come with it. Now, this is something that you and only a few other cats have this claim to that you can lay your name on. When you said that was ICP, that was Esham, that was it for the longest time. There were other acts, but they weren't doing it as big. You started carving your own niche into this and putting your name on what is horrorcore. And how did that start, especially in Louisville, Kentucky, of all fucking places?
Well, I mean, you know, obviously the music that I was doing back then, I didn't really have a model for it. Like I said, I was just kind of doing what I liked. And, you know, like a lot of the engineers where I recorded at, like the recording studios, most of those engineers were kind of, they just really only knew like mainstream hip hop. So like a lot of them kind of was just like, they didn't get it. And a lot of people were trying to steer me like down the, you know, I've had managers and I've been on mainstream. I mean, I've been signed to Warner Brothers I've been on major record labels, and everybody from, from the beginning up's telling me you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And like, I'm giving them these records of this, wicked hardcore gangster shit. And like, they're like, we can't do anything with this. You got to give us like more of a, a radio song. So, obviously trying to spread the music, I would like make like a radio song, and like I hated doing that shit, but I felt like to get it out there with these labels, I felt like I had to appease them and give them, this avenue of some of these like radio friendly songs. So like, if you listen to my older albums, there would be like 2 songs that maybe you could hear on the radio, and then the rest of it was just like this dark underground wicked shit. And they just tried to conform me to doing something that I didn't want to do, which obviously it didn't work out. And I just traveled down my own path, and I did it my way, which is obviously turned into what I'm doing now.
So with turning down that road and sort of deciding to take on everything yourself, I know that entails a lot of different hats with all the different things that you really have to take care of when you're you're an independent artist. What would you say was the biggest challenge you faced when you tried to take on all those hats?
That's a lot.
I'd say that the biggest challenge naturally was being signed to I was signed to Warner Brothers back in '99, and I had put out, my first album was Welcome to the Ville. I dropped that 1997 on my own independently, and I sold like 7,000 copies, just by either taking it to mom and pop stores and consignment, or small distribution through like Camelot Music, which turned into FYE. And I did 7,000 on my own. I put out my second album in '99. Sold 15,000 copies independently, no help at all. Then I got picked up by Warner Brothers and sold another 15,000. So I sold 30,000 copies of that album. They realized that, like, the type of music that I was doing, they were basically trying to get, more of a mainstream feel out of me. And so I got dropped really quick. And then I put out my third album independently by myself. And that album ended up doing 100,000 copies, sound scanned. Now, getting back to your question, the biggest challenge was after that album came out, I dropped my next album, No White Flags. And that was basically when record stores started going down, and streaming, well, it wasn't called streaming back then. It was basically like bootlegging. But this is when the year of the internet took over. Yeah, like Napster and LimeWire and all the file sharing. So I went from selling 100,000 CDs to my next album only sold 10,000 copies. And so that was like the biggest challenge, was like my biggest ally that I had were these stores who were willing to help me sell my product independently, to now all these stores are folding, and which then was my worst, my biggest enemy, which is now the biggest ally, is streaming. It's turned into being an independent artist's best friend. But back then, artists, we didn't look at streaming and downloading as a friend. We looked at it like, we're losing our ass. And, a lot of artists went under. A lot of record labels went under, and a lot of record stores folded. In that time period, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. And in that time period, I remember there were 33 record stores in Louisville, and it went from 33 to like 6 record stores in a year.
Wow.
So that was like the biggest hurdle, was, to be able to keep going and take the highs and the lows and just keep pushing to, to being able to stay on top and just coast until things got better.
And another thing that you probably had to rely on at that point was, because of the internet, the word of mouth movement from the small Juggalo communities, Fago lovers. Now I'm showing my age with that one, but just there were so many places we could go that it was the only way we could find each other. It was the only way we could find the music we were looking for. And was it weird to have to lean into a real hard word of mouth by the fans to really get your name out there?
I mean, yeah, very much so. But, like back then, I had Juggalos coming to my shows. Not a lot of them, but I knew they were Juggalos. Like I said, I didn't even really know what a Juggalo was. I just knew what I liked and what I was into. And I knew they were into the same shit because, like, they would have, wear like Hatchet Man, they'd have Hatchet Man shit or a fucking Esham shirt or whatnot. I'd always see like 5 or 6 Juggalos at my shows, and I knew they were into that scene. But like I said, back then to me, it wasn't like what it is now, like a Juggalo, and I wasn't really thrust onto the scene until I got put on The Gathering for the first time. Actually, this is back when George Velakis was part of Psychopathic, and George is who actually booked me for my first gathering in 2012 in Cave and Rock.
And that was actually Cave and Rock,
my first gathering that I had been to or I had performed at. And then obviously that just like opened a whole new world, to me. I didn't have as many fans there as I thought I would, from selling 100,000 records. But on the flip side of that, I had more fans there than I thought I would. So it just opened my eyes that I had a lot more fans than I realized who were actually part of the Juggalo scene and movement. And it just, all the pieces didn't start coming together until I did that first gathering. And then it just opened my eyes that there was a much bigger picture and I had a much bigger audience that I needed to cater to.
That is a trial by fire too, because if there's one thing that I can tell you by our audience, it takes a lot to get up in front of us because we have brutal honesty that some acts are not prepared for. But
yeah. And I knew that going. Yeah.
You mentioned the Hatchet Man. Your Mobstyle symbol. Have we got there yet? When you played the 2012 Gathering, has Mobstyle become a thing yet, or was this still like?
Oh yeah, yeah. The Smokin' Joe, the Mobstyle logo was actually on my first album, Welcome to the Ville. So that's been around since 1997.
Now that's one of those logos it's automatically noticeable. You know when you say you know what you're looking at. Who drew that? I'm just curious, or was it you?
Well, actually, when the idea of Smokin' Joe was actually first formed was me and my homie at the time, Big Sean, which is actually the same guy that turned me on to Esham. And he had turned me on to Esham, and him and I had set out to do Mobstyle music, to do a record label together. But just after we came out with Welcome to the Ville, he just kind of went to go do his own thing, not musically, just, life in general. He just started, he had a couple kids, and just life just took a wild turn for him. And plus he was in some crazy court cases. He was in the court system. Him and I have always remained best friends, but he just kind of like left the whole music thing altogether. But basically, the whole idea was just this dope skull face, because back then you didn't really see skulls like you do today. And just this dope skull face with a gangster hat and a cigar. And back then we were super inspired by like, you know, the gangster mafia movies like Goodfellas and Casino and Scarface and just, you know, all that mob gangster shit. So we were just inspired. So, you know, that's obviously where Mobstyle music came from. And, you know, nobody else had a name like that. You know, we wanted to do something that we were into and we thought was cool. And we had a tattoo artist at the time named Eric who lived here in Louisville. And I told Eric my idea that, you know, what we wanted to do for the logo. And he actually drew the original logo.
That's badass. And now that shit is known nationwide.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you said 2012 was when you got your first real exposure to the Juggalo culture. You went with working with acts like Twisted, touring with Boondocks, other acts without the underground. How did you guys come up with the idea of UGA?
UGA started, you know, Boondocks and I actually connected on Twitter, and he had a lot of fans and I had a lot of fans in common that were kind of like tweeting at us saying, Boondocks, you need to work with Bukshot, and Bukshot, you need to work with Boondocks. And it kind of started organically. I reached out to Boondocks first and was like, hey man, you know, I'm sure you've seen all these people, you know, reaching out and wanting us to work. And, you know, he was like, he'd seen a lot of that himself. And we just kind of decided, you know, we should like do something together. And then kind of the same thing with Class. You know, I had actually met Class through social media as well. And Class and I had connected and been talking. And that gathering that we released Underground Avengers at, you know, Boondocks and I were talking about doing something together. And Class and I were talking about doing something together. So, you know, I just said to Boondocks, you know, what do you think if we, instead of just you and me doing something, what if we do something with Class? And I said the same thing to Class, and it was just, we were all on the same page. And, you know, that was just kind of like how it was formed. It was more experimental, but, you know, we decided to do the first UGA project, and, you know, and the rest was history.
I mean, and it's a hell of a history. I've been a fan of all three of you guys, and then the force that what you were when it came together as one. It was pretty fucking cool. And there are a few quote unquote super groups in this scene per se, but you guys will definitely leave a mark right up there with Lotus and a few others names I'm just not going to mention. You know exactly what I'm saying.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, I definitely think UGA has, you know, definitely left its mark in the underground, and I never thought it was going to be what it turned into. You know, it ended up being something way bigger than I think all of us thought it was going to be. And, you know, obviously that's cool when something you don't see coming just happens, you know, naturally and organically.
Yeah, it's like nobody pushed for that. It wasn't like there was money involved. It was just three talented friends working together because they enjoyed working together. I feel like more artists can learn from that, because there's a lot of people that are always on the fuck you, pay me kick, and I understand that, but at the same time, the number one rule is don't be a dick. Yeah.
No, that's you know, the three of us, it's never been like. It's never been money motivated, ever. I mean, honestly, you know, I work with a lot of artists in the underground, and many times money exchanges hands, you know, but like, as far as like the groups, the super groups that I'm associated with, like as far as like Cabal and Berserkers and Double Dragon, like none of that stuff is money motivated. I mean, you know, like money helps to make the situation work, but like it's all of this music has been originated and done out of love and passion, and I think that's why it all has worked so well, and it continues to work.
Well, and that's something else that's really cool with being a fan of you, is there are all of those other projects you just mentioned. If there's not a new Buckshot album coming out, chances are there's some form of music coming from your camp. It always seems like you guys are always fucking releasing music, always dropping merch. Just the wheel never stops spinning. And I feel like there's a lot of cats out there right now that could really, really take lesson from you guys on that.
Not bad advice. I mean, you got to think, I know I do this music and I make merch and it sells, but like, I'm still a fan of this shit. Like, I love this shit. So that's why I think it's working. You know, a lot of people, I feel like a lot of artists start out like I did, a lot of passion and a lot of love for it. And I think a lot of artists, they lose their way along the way. I think they kind of forget where they came from and who they are and what they were. And a lot of people end up just doing things out of habit and to pay the bills. And there's nothing wrong with having to pay the bills, but I think it's a way bigger plus when you can continue to do this for the love of it, you know. And
absolutely,
I do make money off this craft and this art. And with a lot of artists, you know, it's one comment that I see a lot, and it's always from haters, you know, but like you always see the comment, you know, I wonder how much Bukshot paid for all these features on this album or that album. And, you know, the funny thing is, most of the features I do, majority of the features I do, none of these artists ask me for money. They do it out of respect. And they do it because they see what I'm doing with the craft, and, you know, like, they get it, and they want to roll. You know, like there have been artists that I've worked with, you know, business wise, where money changes hands, because this is a business. And a lot of these artists that I work with, it's a business. But you would be surprised how many artists like don't ask me, you know, for a penny. And you know, like, I don't like to name drop, but I'll tell you one artist to this day that I'm still super, super close friends with, and he's fucking on top of the world right now, is Jelly Roll. Jelly Roll, he has never asked me for a penny. And I remember the last song we did together, I just tried to offer him some money just as a thank you, you know, because Jelly's never asked me for a dime. And he told me, he said, Buckshot, he said, this has never been about money with me, with you. He said, I love you, bro. And he said, but I want to make this clear. He said, if you ever try to offer me money for anything I do for you, he said, it's going to be, I'll consider an insult. He said, don't ever try to give me money again. And I said, you know, point taken. You know, just because I work with an artist, and like I said, to me, Jelly Roll in our world, he's top of the food chain, man. Nobody's bigger than him right now.
And he's crossed completely over. He's on CMT. He's on the mainstream radio, and I still
has that humble attitude. You know, he's that humble. But you know, Jelly and I have been rocking for like 16 years. I mean, you know, he's one of my day ones. Like, Jelly's my dude. But for him just to have that outlook, you know what
Absolutely.
I'm saying? Like my whole point in all this, man, it's not always about money and you know, it's just not about that.
Absolutely. So, you know, with doing this for so long and being able to have all the features and the groups and all those things that you've managed to do, you know, it's not about money, but what are some goals that you still have left that you'd still like to go out and do?
Goals as in what?
Anything. Like, let's say it's your bucket list. Is there somewhere you're trying to travel to, or is there something you're wanting to see?
As far as traveling, I don't really have a bucket list. I mean, I've never been to Germany, or you know, or like just Europe in general, Japan. I've never been to Japan. I would think it would be dope to make it there one day, but I wouldn't say that's really on a bucket list. I mean, if anything, I just want to continue, like, goals. I just want to continue to grow as an artist, and I want every artist who works with me to be able to grow as well. And but yeah, there's not really like a bucket list as far as, you know, just things that I want to do for my kids. You know, obviously I want my kids to grow up and have a better life than I had when I was younger. But other than that, my only bucket list is just to you know, to keep making music and to keep being passionate about it. And as long as I have that feeling, you know, that it gives me, I'll keep doing it. You know, it's never been about a penny though.
So I want to bring something up because you was talking about being on the social media, and it is good. We all need it. But what is like your first reaction to like legitimate backlash to who and what you work with and who and what you've done business with? Like, I'm not going to put words to it, but you kind of know what I'm saying. Some doors have closed because of things like that, but how have you reacted to that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you just, you know, you just got to push on. I mean, you know, like, you know, obviously, I mean, this isn't a secret. I have no animosity with Psychopathic Records, but because of my relationship that I have with Twisted and Magic Ninja, you know, they've cut me off. They've made it a, you know, it's not a secret. Everybody knows that, but you know, their stance with me is, as long as you do business with Twisted, we're not doing business with you. And like, you know, that's what it is. I don't have any hard feelings or animosity. You know, that they've got a way they want to do business and run it. And if that's how they feel, like, that's cool. You know, they'll just keep doing what they're doing. And, you know, what other people, if people want to work with me or not, that's on them. But just, you know, no matter who wants to work with me or who doesn't, I'm just going to keep doing my thing. And, you know, my ship's going to keep sailing.
And doors have opened up more and more. You've gone from opening to main or to doing the headlining thing. We saw you at the New Year's, the Mobstyle New Year's. That was a hell of a set. And you now have yearly events that do continue to perpetuate the scene in your area, and that's Don shit. That's, you know, that's big dog shit. And to see
to see that kind of support and movement, because like usually Louisville is not that great of a market for underground shows. And you know, our Hallow Bleed yearly event, you know, we've done Hallow Bleed 3 years. That's our October show, 3 years in a row, and we sold it out this year. And then the you know, which Weirdo's Eve was basically a glorified Mobstyle Christmas, which we've done that 3 years in a row, and we almost sold that out. You know, next year we're actually upgrading venues. We're actually going to do much bigger venues because we've outgrown the venues that we've been doing them at. But no, it's I'm very blessed to, you know, to be in the position I am, to be able to be throwing these underground shows. You know, I mean, New Year's Eve, we were up against the world. It's New Year's Eve. Everybody's got an event. You know, either someone's with their family, their work, whoever. You know, there's an event on every block on New Year's Eve. And to bring in Alazul Ilu, super famous, Stevie Stone, and, you know, everybody else who was on that bill, to you know, that venue that venue held 300 people, and we had 230 people in the venue that night. You know, to have that many people watching some underground hip hop shit on New Year's Eve. I mean, the owner of the club and the promoter was like, dude, that's amazing that many people were here on New Year's. You know, so I took that as a huge compliment that we were able to put together something like that and have the time that we did. You know, everybody had a blast that night. There was no drama. It was a great night for underground hip hop.
Oh yeah, people were getting loose. It was a great night. And I like the term you used, underground hip hop, because we always throw around the terms horrorcore, this or that or whatever. But when you have the same acts under the roof as Ala Zulu, you and Stevie Stone, who is not horrorcore, but he is this underground hip hop, this other side of the tracks. And I feel bad for people who don't want to mingle on our side because of that. Because I've been to mainstream shows, I've been to not mainstream shows. I never see anybody having more fun than I see them at our shows. I really want to put it out there like that.
No, I agree. I think all the type shows that we do, you know, they're the best kind of shows, period. You know, for what we do, like hip hop music, like our underground, like wicked scene, it doesn't get better, you know, and people always have a blast. You know, it's real personable. The artists are generally out and about in the crowd at, you know, one time or another of the night, and just, you know, all the fans who come out to these shows and the artists always have great experiences.
And, you know, you do the meet and greets, but here's the thing, even if you don't spend that money, there's a good chance you're going to get at least a small one-on-one interaction with one of your favorite artists when you come out to one of the shows. It's just that the clubs are kind of small and people rub elbows. It is what it is. And I really do. I love seeing the love and the attention be appreciated by the artists, the fans. And it's just, I don't know, man. Sometimes it gets a little hard to hear people talk shit about this, and it bothers me. And I know that you're one of the people who have to defend this with your teeth, and we appreciate you for that.
No, for sure. But I mean, you got to think though, the people who are talking shit, they're not talking shit about the quality. They're not talking shit about the quality of the music or the show. You know, we don't have to go in this direction, but everybody knows if they're shit talking, it's political because who they're associated with. It's got nothing to do with the music. Absolutely. You know, when they're shit talking, it's because, oh, this event's gonna suck, or these people suck because they associate with this group or that group. It's not, you know, when they're talking in this scene that we're in, it's always politically motivated. It's not, you know, it's not shit talk because of bad quality music or merch, or because people are assholes or super nice guys. It's generally, when you see the shit talking, it's always a rock stone throwing contest because which one of these artists are associated with other groups of artists. That's just what it is.
So this is something big. Coming off of COVID, what did you, as an artist, what did you learn how to keep as we said earlier, the wheel moving with, like, just being locked up? Like, a lot of artists, they didn't make it after COVID. Some bands I know folded because of COVID.
Yeah, I mean, obviously COVID affected touring, you know, touring for a lot of artists a lot. I don't really tour that much. I do a lot of glorified one-offs. And, you know, for me with COVID, I just kept, you know, recording and writing and just keeping my head to the grind and just concentrated on making good music and letting the fans know what was coming to give them hope. And, you know, that there's stuff coming, just hang on, we're going to get through this. And finally we got through it. I mean, COVID is still there, but I'm saying we got through the worst part of it.
Yeah. So, but what I think everybody had to take away from it is, as you said, you couldn't look at the touring, and I think because of that, you see a lot more of those one-off shows, those spot shows where it's like 4 or 5 really big acts in one night, and instead of taking that on the road, it just, everybody gives all their energy on that one night, which I think is actually really smarter, and it spares the artist. But what did you learn? Like, another hat you've been forced to wear is the digital media, the production, the music videos, YouTube shit. The character Buck Norris, for example. You know, like, I just shout out to that. That shit gets me every fucking time.
Now, Buck Norris was a cool. You know, the Buck Norris was a creation of COVID. You know, that Buck Norris literally, I don't know if you remember, M&E did that Net Fest on your couch. It was like an all day long pay-per-view.
We were watching. I remember that shit.
And I remember they reached out and wanted me to do something. And I don't know, just to me at the time, you know, obviously the performing in front of a camera, no crowd, was just so odd to me. I just, you know, I feed off the crowd and the people. And, you know, I told him, I was like, I really don't want to do like a performance, but I want to be involved. And I said, I've got an idea. And they just let me run with my idea. And, you know, Buck Norris was an idea and a character I had in my head for a while that I wanted to do. And we just ended up bringing it to fruition, you know, and made that little spill that we did for NetFest. So, you know, it was actually what I saw online. Buck Norris was actually one of the highlights of that whole event. So
it really fucking was. I mean, it really was. Like, we were in a really odd place, man. The world was it was not happy. And like, that was something that I felt like we all fucking needed. Like, we all needed that. And if you didn't watch it, that was your problem. But it was so weird to have the artists give that much of a fuck about everybody in that sense. With the NetFest, do you think that anybody will still do things like that, or do you think we've seen the passing trend of that?
I mean, now that shows are back, I don't see it happening as much, but I mean, I could definitely, you know, see more of that happening again. I mean, one cool aspect for me with the whole Buck Norris thing, most people who know me know I have I'm really like a big clown and a big troll, and I'm always cutting up and joking. But that's the people who know me. But the people who don't know me, they can really only go by the music. And so I think a lot of people have this outlook that like, I'm just like this asshole who's like looking for trouble or looking for a fight 24/7. And that's not me at all. And I think it surprised a lot of people seeing that I had like a side to me, which it's not even a side to me. Like, that's who I am, but just people aren't used to seeing that. And I think it caught everybody off guard. It caught everybody off guard seeing that side of Buckshot, you know. So I definitely think it was a great step in the right direction, and it's obviously, you know, the Buck Norris thing continues to evolve, and there's more coming. There's more coming, you know, a lot more coming with Buck Norris.
Well, talking about your acting chops and the character creation there, normally I would ask who you would have play you in a film, but I want to know if there was any film you could be cast in, what film would you want to be in?
Oh, wow.
Good question, Polly.
Huh. I mean, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of so many different genres of film. Obviously, I would love to be in a horror movie. You know, I'd love to be part of some kind of big budget horror movie that, you know.
Do you want to be like the killer, or do you just want to be like someone that's getting chopped up?
I would totally be the victim and be the guy who gets killed. But obviously, I think
I'm so down to be the victim. I'm with you right there.
But I think it would be awesome, you know, to be the killer as well. You know, whatever. If a producer or a director had a vision, you know, had a vision for me, you know, I feel like I could do it all. But you know, I would just, you know, like to do it anyway. Just I think film is awesome. I'd love to be part of any kind of you know, film or movie.
Well, the last thing I'll hit you before we get out of here, what is on the horizon? Is there anything you can give us, any previews or anything that we can be looking forward to soon?
Yeah, you know, me and Boondocks just finished our Horde album. I don't know if you all have seen my hand. I keep doing this through the whole interview. I've got the guy that's doing the album cover. He's sending me notifications, so I'm just like getting a screen. But literally, Rob Rebeck is putting the finishing mixes on the album, and I've got the artwork people doing the artwork right now. And that album is dropping. I believe pre-orders are going to go up in February, and I'm believing the actual release date is going to be Astronomicon.
Oh, I can't fucking wait for Astro.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna drop the horde at Astronomicon, and then
are we gonna see you on the Killer Karaoke?
What's that?
Are we gonna see you at Killer Karaoke?
I'll probably be there, but I don't know if I'm gonna do anything.
I'm actually genuinely considering getting drunk enough and getting on stage. I can't sing for shit, but I'm going to pick a song where it doesn't matter.
Well, hey, that's what karaoke's for.
Well,
but I think people knew what it was, but I had a ad mat that came out in the last few albums that said the Pit 2023, and so for those who don't know, I am going to confirm it right here. The Pit is the name of the next Cabal album.
Oh,
and
shit.
That album is coming out in June. And, low key, Mr. Gray and myself, we're going to do a follow-up to the first album. And, I've got a Warlock album, which Warlock, I'm not part of the group, but it is a group with Boondocks, Kung Fu Vampire, and Shy 361. And that project is dropping under the Mobstyle umbrella this year. We've got a new Underground Avengers album dropping this year. And I've got a brand new full-length Buckshot album dropping this year. I've dropped EPs, but I have not dropped a full-length album since Helter Skelter Hellion in 2019. So it's been 4 years since I've dropped a full-length album.
Oh, you're gonna leave them waiting to deliver. That's gonna be sick.
It's gonna be a busy year.
Yeah, it sounds like Mobstyle is going to be in front of every fucking body, and I will help to promote that as much as I can. And thank you so fucking much for doing this.
Yes, dude, thank you so much.
This is when we reach out to artists, sometimes people hit us back or not. And I want to say one thing. Shout out to Ron Jump for helping put this together.
Yes, Ron's a great guy.
That dude's the shit. He speaks well.
Ron's one of my best friends in the world, and I'm sure he's glued to the game right now.
That's where I'm trying to get to this. That's where I'm trying to get this motherfucker to. So, if there's one thing you can tell anybody before we let this go, just any piece of advice you can give an artist going forward, what they need to do to really, really make it.
Save your money. To really make this go the way you want it, you're going to need every penny you can get. Some people just get lucky and just make a hit song and blow up overnight. But like in this underground world, it's not that easy. I've been in this game 26 years, and I can't tell you how many nights that I told myself I was going to give up. But I've got a hustler's spirit and a grind like no other, and I've just stayed with this and just kept going, and I took all the hits, and just you just don't stop. If you've got this dream and this is what you want to do, like, you just got to learn to take the hits, because they're going to happen. The worst shit's going to happen to try to stop you from doing this. But you just got to stay true to yourself, stay true to what you believe in, and, keep it real with your fans and your fan base. And, as long as you do that, it's kind of hard to go wrong. It doesn't mean you're going to make it. I still don't feel like I've made it. There's always room for improvement. But I mean, I know there's probably 1,000 aspiring artists out there who's looking at me like, I just want to be in Buck shoes. you know, and that is very inspiring as well. But, you know, like I'm telling you all, I'm not where I want to be right now. You know, I want to be 10 levels higher than where I'm at. So, you know, just don't stop. Just keep grinding and stay true to yourself and your music, and, you know, see where it takes you.
That's good shit, man. I think that's all we got. Like I said, once again, thank you, Buckshot, for coming on here and doing this for us. We will be promoting the fuck out of this. All of you guys who have been watching, thank you for tuning in, sharing, liking, subscribing. Pics or It Didn't Happen. That's on Instagram and YouTube and fucking Facebook. Where can they find you?
Old Facebook.
We're that old. Where can they find you on this vast ocean of social media if they choose to?
My website is mobstylemusic.com. My main platform of choice is Twitter, and my Twitter handle is Bukshizzle, as well as my Instagram is Bukshizzle, and my Facebook is /Buckshot86. And I'm on Facebook pretty much every day as well. But I usually try between the three big social media platforms. I always try to post up at least once every day or every other day to try to keep all the fans in the loop on what's going on. And so, yeah.
There you go, guys. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
Peace, guys.